Hey guys, Scott Solari here, Viral Marketing, and welcome back to another Road to Results Hangout. And today I'm really excited. I have two amazing guests on. And again, the whole point of these is to have business owners that are going to teach us the best practices so that you're really successful in your business and that you work smarter, not harder. So I have two guests. I want to introduce both of them right now. My first one is Chris Tamm. And Chris has been in the corporate America for about 15 years and just building business that way. And then, of course, he was in real estate for about 4 and built up a team to sell over 400 transactions. And he slowly has transitioned himself into running Firepoint Solutions, which is an all-in-one, I guess you'd say, management system for any professional services businesses so that you can utilize one system and you're not spread out all over the place. So welcome, Chris. Thanks for being here, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And then our other guest I want to introduce, and then we'll get going, is Gabe Cordova. And Gabe has been a real estate professional for about 12 years and is currently transitioning into Director of Accounts for Firepoint. And Gabe's worked as an individual agent, medium-sized teams, big teams, managing satellite offices, and his business sold over 800 and 700 homes in the last 2 years, so over 1,500 homes in the past 2 years. So we have two really excellent real estate or past real estate professionals on this hangout today to go through everything that we need to learn about using a management system like Firepoint to really utilize, be efficient, and build your business. So thanks for being on, Gabe.
All right, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So let's just jump right in and kind of get into the history a little bit about how did we get here. Let's get into that.
Yeah. Do you want us to just talk?
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead, Chris? Tell us a little bit about how Firepoint came to be and how you both came to be a part of something that is growing right now.
Yeah. So the biggest thing for at least my history in real estate was brand new to real estate probably about 4.5, 5 years ago. I was in real estate for 4 years. And just that initial shock, probably everybody getting into real estate, is that there's not a lot of systems that run the processes, that you're trying to figure everything out on your own. And coming from the outside, I'd assume that, hey, big brokerages, Keller Williams, RE/MAX, and they teach you everything. And they give you a business plan, you know exactly what to do, you just come in and do it. And that just turned out not to be the case. And so a lot of it was kind of from square one from the outside, from more of the corporate side. For me personally was, okay, what are the systems? What do we have to do to try and make this a repeatable process? And what do we have to do to understand all the numbers? So if we spend $1, we know how to track it. And so that first year, it was only 69 transactions, but it was really understanding the basics and how to scale it. And then as time went on over the next couple of years, then we started to be able to apply some pressure, getting those systems set up in the beginning. So I was able to grow pretty quickly into a couple hundred, and then 300, and then 400 transactions in the next year. And then those systems actually became more appealing to go and help other teams grow that and turn that into a software company, which turned into Firepoint, was just more exciting for me individually than being in real estate and continuing to grow the team. So it's just a personal decision because of loving the systems and how things are put together and just the amazing people that are in real estate, and that's kind of where I can bring help to them. And so it was a fairly short time in real estate compared to a lot of other people. Like Gabe has a much larger history in real estate than I do. But that's basically how I got to where I am today, was just trying to bring the systems into real estate and realizing there was actually a bigger need for me in those systems side than there was actually in the real estate transaction side.
Got it. So, Gabe, I know that you and Chris have been friends for a long time. What lured you to jump on board with this and be a part of it and use your skill set that you've learned in real estate and then apply it to this solution?
Right. So I was kind of the opposite of Chris. When I got in, like I said, a little over 12 years ago, started off as a single agent, just running and gunning, and just get the next deal, the next deal, the next deal. Built a small team, kind of the same thing. Then just started throwing money out there, more marketing, more business, more marketing, more business, and then opened up our own brokerage. Now almost 6 years ago. Built a larger team and just kept going, never looked back, and just kept buying, subscription to this platform, subscription to the next and the next. Where Chris got in and wanted to know where's the money going and where's the money coming from. I think I'm more the typical agent where I just keep spending it. As long as deals are coming in, I must be making money. and which come to find out honestly isn't true, and it's a big shocker to all of us that we don't know our numbers. But and I haven't really actually known Chris that long. It's probably just been, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years maybe at the most. Yeah. But started realizing, wait a second, there are people out there that actually know their numbers. They know where their leads are coming from, where their deals are coming from, and just in conversations with him, like, how are you doing this? And he just shared a little bit about what he was doing and what they were working on, and instantly was like, I have to have that. This doesn't exist. I've got 14 spreadsheets for this and 10 spreadsheets for that, and then I use this system for that, and then I have an assistant that hopefully can tell me what's coming from this, and I just really didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know, I guess. And so as we started talking and learning about Firepoint and the idea of having a system where you can have all of your leads and your website and your pay-per-click and reporting that tells you, where your closings are coming from and how much you spent on that source and your cash conversion cycle, like how long it took you to get your money back. Like, I didn't even know this stuff existed. I felt, kind of dumb about it, but honestly, most people just don't know how to run this. And so, over the last little while, I've, been working, with him just as I'm running my real estate company and learning, wow, people need this, and it would make our job so much easier. And then as clients were coming on, Chris and I started talking that, somebody who's done the small team, the medium team, and large team can probably help get these people set up and talk to them from a point of perspective that I've been doing it. I've made a lot of these mistakes, whether it's a small team, single agent, or large team. I've been through it. So Firepoint, being able to bring that, I guess, relationship and being able to relate to the client from their eyes and their perspective, it's been incredible being able to talk to somebody at their level and understand what's going on. And I think Firepoint, having the idea of being run and developed by people who've been in the business and understand what we need is just, it's in a league of its own, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the key things is that you guys bring so much experience and just you were in the trenches learning what needed to be involved with this solution. So that is huge compared to every other solution out there. But before we continue on, I just want to let everyone know watching, up in the right corner there is a little app that you can click on, and it says Q&A, and you can click there and type in a question for Gabe or Chris throughout the next 50 minutes while we're on here. We'll either get them answered during if it's relevant, or we'll answer them at the end of the show. Okay, so Chris, why don't we jump into what are some of the things that you think are important, just so the audience knows what we're going to be covering today as we go through and talk about Firepoint and how it can really help professional service businesses, real estate businesses, any business to keep everything in one solution.
Yeah, I think personally, and maybe try and keep the answer short, but the biggest things that I've learned, whether you learn from books or from school or from Hard Knocks or whatever it is there's usually 3 areas that keep us back. And everybody says, hey, we need to grow to a certain size. And I would definitely disagree that people that want to grow to a certain size, that's great. And then somebody that wants to stay in a business producing, that's what they enjoy, then they can probably stay there. They can still grow their business, but doesn't mean they have to go into a position they don't love what they're doing. But usually the 3 ways that people hold themselves back is either them, they're not a leader, or they need to learn more about leadership, or they're holding people back, or they're not getting the right people, or it's their people, that they put the wrong people in the wrong seats, or it's the wrong people in general, they're not holding them accountable, or it's their systems. And usually the systems can take care of a lot of the other pieces, the issues that come up. Somebody that's not super analytical can use systems that help them understand some of the analytics. But the system, just because you have a system, it could be the wrong one. That's kind of where if you have a system and you overanalyze it, and obviously we could talk on that, you can lose a lot of steam because you're looking too much at the numbers versus just going and making another phone call or talking to another client or getting a referral. And so it's kind of the balance of those 3 things in my head, which is, ourselves, and then our people, and then the systems that we're using to run all of that. And specifically in real estate, and this happens in a lot of professional service organizations, where the systems are all these separate little pieces that you're trying to tape together and see what 7 systems somebody else is using, and what 3 is this guy using, and how can I put those in. And as entrepreneurs, we're the one driving that bus forward. And if we're spending all of our energy just trying to figure out these little system things, our energy isn't being spent in energizing other people and in finding the right people and moving them around. And most people don't move themselves around or deselect themselves. They need us to apply that pressure. And so I think the biggest piece is kind of the focus is our focus on those three areas, or is it spent too much on systems or too much on ourselves or too much on other people, and it needs to be spread out to make sure all those are running well. So I don't know if that answers it all.
It does. It answers a lot,
Yeah.
actually. But we can go deep in a lot of that stuff. But so Gabe, when you first started using Firepoint, maybe talk to me specifically about what you saw change in your business.
I mean, I hate to keep beating a dead horse or anything, but it's the numbers. It's we, doing this as long as we have. I've had just about every system out there, and for the most part, everything's pretty much the same. Nothing focuses on understanding where your business is coming from. How much did you spend on that? How long did it take you to get your money back? And so it's just been able to generate those reports, to be able to sit down with our coach and actually know what's going on in our business. I mean, it's really easy to just look at how many sales you have and to look at how many leads came in. But with Firepoint, you just take it so much further down. And so that was the first, I think, thing that we saw, like, hey, we can use this to run all of our numbers and do all that. But as I got to understand the vision of the company and the understanding how it works, it's really becoming apparent to where as it gets developed and really fine-tuned, that it's becoming that overall one solution. And I'm already looking down the road at what we're going to be able to get rid of and save, because, I mean, everybody listening to this call, I mean, as real estate agents, we spend $100 here, $200 there, $500 here. It goes over and over, and nobody's really sat down and thought about what can we do to bring everything together and put it in one spot. And that's what's happening at Firepoint.
Excellent. So, Chris, talk to me about, like, looking back when you were working on creating this solution. What were the most important things that you had to keep in mind or make sure that you were including so that this system really works for the business owner and can give you that visibility of what you need to be doing in your business down the road?
Sure. I think for me, it was almost the mistakes. So for me personally, this is Firepoint is actually the 5th system that I built internally inside real estate. And so over the years, basically every 6 months or year, would basically rebuild completely based on all the mistakes, everything I'd learned from the previous system. And because, I mean, right away, I didn't know everything that I did or that I do today about real estate. So I built a system around what I thought I needed to know. And then 6 months later, I'm like, well, shoot, that was too detailed. We were missing this. How am I supposed to track how our appointments are doing? So we'd rebuild it, tear it apart, rebuild the entire thing. And did that 4 times until the very end. It was like, okay, I'm done. And enough people are asking, like, hey, can we buy this? So that's when I ended up leaving real estate and doing Firepoint. And then this was actually the 5th system. So I think the biggest thing, as far as what I learned, was actually all the mistakes. And the mistakes was everybody's personality is different. So Firepoint, we tried to build it for the 95% of people. And you're always going to have the 5% out there that are incredible statisticians, or they think they're incredible statisticians, or the people that, I mean, are the best at scripts or think they're the best at scripts. I mean, there's always the people out there. So our system, no system should ever be built for 100% of people, because there's always those outliers that are always going to have something custom or so involved or something that you can't build something for them and take care of 95% of people. And so for us, I mean, that was, obviously didn't really say anything there, but the answer to kind of the question would be, I think for us it was learning that fine line between what do you need to see without getting too focused on it to ignore the rest of the things. Because you need, I mean, as an entrepreneur or even having an operations manager, most real estate agents don't have 6 layers of management. They have 1 or 2, and then they have their employees and their agents. And so in real estate, being a service industry and usually a very small organizational chart, you have to be able to give something that a team leader can look at it and spend a few minutes there, get some details with it, and then go focus on another item. Whereas when you have a marketing department in a Fortune 500 company, you need stats that are so detailed that 15 employees can spend all their time just analyzing it and then breaking it down. You can't get that detailed in real estate, because somebody that spends too much time they're trying to understand, if you give somebody 50 reports, then they feel like they're going to have to understand 50 reports, or they're just not going to use it. So it's one of those things, if you provide it, it better be useful, and you better not give them too much, or else if they spend all their time there, they're going to lose all their phone calls and their employees, and they're focused in other areas. So trying to summarize that, but I think it was as important as far as what to show as what not to show, to make sure that in real estate and the service industry, people stay focused on the things that matter, that we believe matter, and not so focused on the details that they lose their time on making more phone calls or shaking more hands or inspiring more employees.
So basically taking something that is very overcomplicated, as Gabe kind of talked to earlier, all the different spreadsheets that you had and everything else, and just simplifying it into the things that are really important. Right?
Absolutely. And then we made a decision that, yes, we will entertain 10% of people that need some more custom, more advanced things, but you don't build it for everybody. You don't put it out there that overwhelms people, because let's say 80% of people want to be told this is how I should run my business from people that have done it, and with a lot of other references of people that are doing it today. And then maybe 10% of people want to be able to go a little bit further with it, but don't build something that fits everybody. I mean, you can't build a shoe that fits everyone out there. You build a shoe that the majority of people need, and then make it the best shoe ever. Oh, it's not a shoe.
Got it. So why don't we jump into a little bit kind of about just how the system works. So why don't we go through and talk about some of the things, some of the benefits of the system, as far as, I mean, even doing a screen share if you want, Chris. I mean, we can do a screen share and kind of go through some of the things. I don't know if you're prepared for that, but
but I can totally pull it up. Just give me a sec here.
Well, and while he's pulling that up, just kind of like on the numbers and reporting, what Chris was talking about, not being able to create something for everybody on the reports and not overcomplicating it, I think is valid. But at the same point, without selling short what they've already created. I mean, I look at the reporting, and what's amazing about it that's done in there is that there's so much detail, and there's so much information that I definitely wouldn't call it basic, but it's very easy to read. Within seconds, you're seeing what you want, and it's all there, and you can take out as much as you want, but it's still like I didn't even know what a cash conversion cycle was. And then once Chris told me what it was and I saw it, I'm like, how did I not know this? How are we spending the money that we spend as real estate agents? I mean, I know a lot of people. I spend 10 grand a month on Zillow. I know people that spend a lot more than that just on Zillow, and I didn't know how long it took me to make that money back. Like, how did I not know that? So there are things, I think, in the reporting from Firepoint that maybe don't sound simple, but the way they're laid out and the design that goes into how the stuff displays and shows is incredible. So I don't know if I'd say it's basic, but it definitely doesn't overcomplicate it, and there's a ton of information there. It's just incredible.
It's just simplifying a ton of information so you know how to actually read it.
Yeah, it's how you lay it out. Like, you give me a spreadsheet with all the stuff, and my head hurts. That's just, I'm a sales guy. That's not me. Chris could look at it, and it's probably, Picasso. I mean, he looks at it, it's amazing, and it drives me crazy. But the way that the graphs and everything lay out within Firepoint, I mean, it's incredible.
So do you want me to pull up a screen share really quick?
Yeah, that'd be great, man. Go through just some of the different parts of the system so that people can that are watching can visualize kind of what we're talking about.
Absolutely. So kind of this is kind of one of the pieces, but one of the big things for us was, if you're in business, period, and this is just kind of a business and marketing thing, is if you're in business, period, if you're going to spend $1 to market, and I don't care whether you're marketing on a birthday card or a newsletter or a Zillow or TV, whatever it is, you better be spending 10 cents, whether it's in your time or paying somebody, in order to understand where that money's going. And now it's true, when you market, you're going to decide, is this something that's going to help all my other sources, or is this a direct response source? So like viral. I mean, when I was in real estate, I used viral to help me grow my business, and to me, that was an improvement to all my sources. It wasn't a direct response necessarily. It was helping to market and improve the conversion of all my sources. So, I mean, with any kind of lead generation, you choose right up front, am I going to track this or am I not? And that was kind of one of the things that got me in talking to a real estate agent is, hey, you're spending this money. Are you tracking it or are you not? And they're like, well, what do you mean? I have no idea. And there are valid things that you don't track. I mean, if you're going to send a lollipop to every single lead you ever get, you can't track that lollipop, but you can track how it affects everything, and if it improves and people get good responses from it. But if you're going to market on Zillow, you better track, are you making money back from Zillow? That's a direct response source. So all I say with that is the idea that if somebody's in any professional service, real estate, attorneys, doctors, dentists, I mean, any of these things where people spend money to lead generate, and it's usually coming to them, or a very high portion of it is, do they understand where all that money's going? Are they tracking it? So This is kind of the reporting piece, and for us, it was the quick information here is, I mean, hey, can I go in and look really quick at, I don't know, where the first 6 months of last year or all of last year, how did I do? I mean, how are my sales? What's happening? Can I cut it down? How much money did I make? Am I paying people? How are my splits changing? So this is a really quick, how am I doing? I mean, how am I doing with money? And kind of some of those things in real estate, you ask somebody, hey, how many transactions the last 6 months? And sometimes they can tell you, and sometimes they have to spend 2 hours in a spreadsheet, and sometimes they have no idea. And so
it's normally those last two. Like, just from real world experience, this is what is incredible. Is what he just clicked and changed in seconds literally took me hours to change and redo, or I didn't have it. Sorry, Chris, but that is a real world.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's huge.
And like, I mean, that'd be kind of same questions to, I'm not going to ask it, but like for viral, I mean, what were sales, what were customer acquisitions for the last 6 months? I mean, anybody in business that has their numbers, is it easily accessible to the CEO of the business? And in professional services, I mean, every business person is the CEO. They're running their business. They need to know their numbers without having to spend hours in a spreadsheet to do it. And then kind of getting into leads. And again, I start the reporting with this because everything, when a system works together and everything's there, what you really care about is not how many phone calls did Johnny make. What you really care about is the business profitable? And then if it's not, then you go down to why. And if Johnny's the issue, well, then you look at Johnny. So you drill down. You don't start at how many phone calls did Johnny make. You start at the high things, you drill down into it. So reporting is kind of the high point of understanding, is my business healthy or is it not? Then you go into a bunch of different areas, which we can talk about. And then you get into leads. So kind of leads, overviewing what's happening. We said, hey, let's look at last year again, and let's go in and say, I want to look at all my sources. And this is kind of another misconception. So in real estate, and this happens in other industries as well, people talk about revenue. Hey, I run a $3 million a year business, or I run a grocery store that does $50 million a year. Those mean almost nothing. I mean, did you sell $100 million worth of homes, or did you do $3 million of commission? And it's just a different way of talking about the exact same number. And grocery stores on average make about 1% of their actual sales, maybe even 0.5%. So a grocery store doing $50 million might actually only have $500,000 to work off of. And so this is kind of the age-old conversation of somebody saying, oh my gosh, I brought in $750,000 from my sphere. Well, if you're paying out a lot of money, maybe you only actually made $200,000. So people talk about gross commission because of ego versus what did they actually make after they paid agents out. And so we wanted to kind of show very quickly, just because somebody brought in the most amount of money, it didn't necessarily make you the most amount of money, depending on what you're paying out with splits and what setups you have. And some of the other pieces here with this is people talk about an idea of ROI. And like if we said, hey, I want to look at just Zillow and Realtor.com, we're going to compare those two. Just going through here. Okay, so how many leads did I have? How many closings did I have? I mean, again, just quick answers to things. How are my purchase prices different? And kind of switch on that. The last year I was in real estate, we raised our purchase price about 25% just by reallocating our exact same budget to different lead sources and different pay-per-click areas that had higher purchase prices. And so, again, something super simple if everything's in the same place, but if you can make 20% more money for no more work just by moving around where your money is, because I mean, even like looking at Realtor.com areas or Zillow areas or pay-per-click, choosing where that goes versus just throwing the budget at the wall has a huge impact on your bottom line.
Yeah, that's huge, man. I mean, that's one of the biggest things. I remember us talking about this before. I mean, to be able to have that vision and that visibility of seeing where your numbers are, or you can simply just make that switch. Most people don't have that because they don't have the right system to show them those numbers.
I mean, it was so easy. I mean, you literally just watch him click. I mean, that's just what's crazy about that. And you know, some of the people that we've been onboarding and stuff, like, we don't know. You know, what should we be marketing? I'm like, well, where'd your closings come from last year? I don't know. I was with them. That was me. I didn't know. This makes it so easy.
So Chris, how long would it take someone that's, let's say, new, jumping into the system, or Gabe, you can even answer this, to really start being able to use it completely effectively because they're doing everything in it? So what's that process kind of like?
Well, it's going to be a little bit different for everybody. You know, we were fortunate enough. I mean, and Chris was incredible working with us. So when we switched over and started using Firepoint, you know, we had the data. We had to clean it up a little bit, but we knew, you know, for 2013, 2014, we had all of our closings. We knew who the clients were, what the source was for the most part, and all that. So we were able to provide Chris a spreadsheet that had all of our closings for the last 2 years with the sources of where they came from. and he was able to import all that stuff for us, so it goes into our closings. And then we just went through, because we did have our expenses. We had to fine tune it a little bit. We had to figure out where it all came from. But then we just went into Firepoint. It's so easy. You literally just go into in the reporting. There's an edit spending, and just go month by month. I mean, it really can't get any easier. You just scroll down. Source, Zillow. I spent this much this month. AdWords, I spent this much. And we just went those last 2 years, put in our spend for each one, and the data was there. So as far as how quickly can you use it, as soon as you have your data, we can get that into Firepoint for you, and you can start looking at stuff right away. I mean, sources that we thought were this was the top of the top. I was shocked when it wasn't, because I just started looking at how much we were spending, and the average sales price, like Chris was just touching, was quite a bit less than others. We were only spending a little bit more on, but the average sales price was so much higher, it didn't make sense. So you can start using it right away, and it's just so user-friendly and so easy to do. It's just a matter of getting the data. And if you haven't been tracking the data, you can't get it, it's going to be a little bit harder to go back over the last couple years. But if you've got your profit and loss, you got your expense sheets, you know how much you spent on each source, and you can go pull those sales, really it's not that bad. We get it in there, and then moving forward, it's so easy to track moving forward. It's, we coach with I don't know if we can say who we're coaching. Can we say who we're coaching with?
Sure.
Maybe not. I don't care. We're coaching with Corcoran, and we have to do these reports every month, which honestly, had we had to do that a year and a half, 2 years ago, I probably wouldn't coach with them, just because I'm like, there's no way. It is so easy to pull in Firepoint now, like that little overview that he showed. Boom. All the information I need is right there. And really, they're just helping us see the numbers, and it's incredible. So for us, it took a little bit of legwork up front to get the data in Firepoint, but we can help facilitate all of that as long as you've got it and get it in the system. And then I can sit down with you and just show you how to run the reports, and I mean, it's so easy.
That's excellent. I'll tell you what, we probably need something like this for our systems.
Yeah, we'll get on the demo right after this on the sales.
Yeah, seriously, because I'm like, yeah, no certain things, but we don't have that outlook. I'll tell you what.
And I think another
it's like throwing money at the wall and be like, hey, hope this works. Yeah. I have no idea though.
And I think that's one of the pieces too, is like where as Firepoint, we look at our client base and where they're coming from and what they're doing. There's a lot of clients that are coming on board that are just starting a team, or that are saying, hey, I see people that are doing this. I am looking at starting a team. How do I build it the right way from the beginning, so I don't have to go back and wonder where this information was? And that's an easy place to start, because then it's just, hey, every month you're going to spend 7 minutes and do this, and then it's all there in the future. And it's one of those things that once you have the information, you would never go back and say, I'd want to do it without it, because it's the idea of, would I ever commit to another $100,000, $500,000 a month and not know where it went? And the other piece, do you mind if I jump back to this really quick for one other point?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So again, with the price point, like if you look at this, like this one has $200,000 price point, and here's a $415,000 price point. And so at the end of the day, it's one of those questions. If I'm looking at, hey, where am I going to spend my next $500? Am I going to spend on something that's going to make me twice as much money or half? And those are easy decisions to make. Then it goes a little bit deeper. So when someone's looking at this and saying, and this is the age-old story that everybody tells, is, hey, I spent $100 on Zillow. I pick on Zillow all the time. I spent $100 on Zillow last month. I made $200. That's a 2-to-1 ROI. And that's great, but you told me absolutely nothing. Is that $200 you made before splits or after splits? And I mean, because if you're paying out 50% split, you actually made no money at all.
When did that lead come in too, right?
Absolutely. That's exactly it. And you just shot my whole thing. No, I'm just kidding. But the other side is what somebody will say is, I made $100. Well, does that mean you made $100 profit after you paid the $100 to Zillow, or you just broke even? So when people say, oh, it's a 3-to-1 ROI, 80%, I mean, that's a made-up number, but pretty much every time, they're not even talking about the same thing. They're saying numbers that they understand nobody else does. So anytime anybody says ROI, it's always, okay, just what are you talking about, so we know if we're talking the same language. But what we get into is, we know that those leads that came from Zillow, they didn't come in last month. They came in 6 months ago, a year ago, exactly what you're saying. So we go into another way of looking at things where you basically say, and we'll just pull up Zillow and Realtor.com again, just to pick on those two. And hopefully they're not on this call. But so let's say on Realtor.com, I spent $12,000 the first 6 months of last year. So I got 405 leads, which was $30 a lead. And those leads, turned it into 10 closings up until today. So you're following a lead through its lifetime, where somebody says, I closed 10 leads this month and I made this much money, I spent 1,000. Well, no, I mean, when did you actually get those leads? So this is looking at it in reverse. 6 months ago, or the first 6 months of last year, this is 2 years ago now, wow. I spent $12,000. Those 405 leads turned into 10 closings, so a real conversion rate. Those 405 leads, 2.5% converted up until today, which company dollar after I paid my splits made me 200% positive return on investment after I paid Realtor.com back. So it was $1,250 a closing, and it took me almost 3 months to close those. So this gives real information, because what somebody says, and again, there's a lot of information here, but somebody says, hey, my Facebook share has a higher return on investment than Zillow, so I'm going to spend more money on Facebook share. And that's great. But what if your Facebook share on average took you 390 days to close and your Zillow took you 120? I mean, people spend money based on ROI without all the other information they need every single day, and they're killing themselves because they're saying, I'd rather wait 3 or 4 times longer to get my money back instead of making less money but getting it back 4 times faster and then spending it 4 times faster again to make that money back again. And so it's kind of the idea of, when we look at it, is again, as long as you have the data, is you look at your return on investment, and you look at how fast it takes you to close, you look at where your money's coming from, what your average purchase prices are, and then you just repeat that over and over and over. And if you're looking at this type of information, however you're doing it, every 3 months, and every 3 months you have that, you sit down, you look at where all your money's going. And again, it could be on your sphere. You could be spending, I mean, $100 a month on your birthday cards, but is that returning well compared to giving them a closing gift? And if you don't know that, why are you spending the money in the first place unless it just makes you feel good to throw away money? And if you want to do that, I'll give you an address you can send it to, and I'll make you feel really good.
Because I heard in a seminar one time I'm supposed to give a gift at closing because it'll make me more business. That's why we do it.
Yeah, cause there you go.
It's great reason. A lot of facts behind that.
Yeah.
So I had a question for you, both of you guys, really. I mean, for not just a real estate business, but a professional services business, how do you, when you start getting all this data and it's all working perfectly, just like you're showing us there, and you have all these different lead sources and you're tracking everything, how do you start making those decisions on, you know, where you should be putting your money, how long you should be waiting to get that return, like really start thinking about the big picture of what the best choices are for that. And obviously every business is different, but what have you kind of learned going through this process so many times with so many different business owners?
Can I give a shameless plug?
Sure.
You're going to hire 3 people. You're going to hire Firepoint. You're going to hire a Viral, and you're going to hire Bob Corcoran now.
Awesome.
And I've coached with Bob. He's a business guy and gets that side of it, so that was just, yeah, totally shameless. No, but at the end of the day, Gabe, do you want to put anything in there before I start talking again?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was going to, oddly enough, kind of go down the same road, is that, so for me, I wouldn't be able to answer that question if I didn't have Firepoint right now. And because, honestly, I didn't know where the money was coming from. Because when I was doing that, where I thought a majority of my money was coming from, it really wasn't. And it wasn't coming to me quick enough. So once I got the data, I started putting this in there, it was like what Chris said. It's sit down, whether it's every 3 months or whatever your time frame is, and look at where that ROI is coming from. Not just, hey, I spent $5,000 last month on Zillow and I made $10,000. That's the wrong number, which is how I was doing it. I didn't know any better. You know, I didn't realize that my closings last month for Zillow was for money that I had been spending over the last, you know, probably year and a half, not just what I spent last month. And those of us that are doing Zillow and PPC, our budgets go up and down all the time. And then we attest some record month of ROI because we probably just happened to pull back on marketing that month, and we had closings from all the efforts that we'd put forth the year and a half prior. So having the data in a way to see it that makes sense, like Firepoint does, has got to be step one. I think if you just start making decisions on where to start building that business, you're really just, you know, you're just taking a shot in the dark. It doesn't matter. So I think you have to have, I think you have to have a Firepoint, obviously, but if you don't, you have to have a way of deciding where is the money coming from. And you know what? Those of us that are great salespeople and run these businesses, I think we can look towards some people to help advise us on what to do. You know, a big shift that, I'll keep it short. I made a big shift in our businesses last year from buyers to sellers, and I just didn't know any better. I was always chasing the buyer. So our sales went from we did a little over 800 in 2014 to over 700 in 2015, but we really reshifted to focusing on sellers. But I can see the long-term benefit of that because a lot of them are buying and it generates more buyers. So these are just things I didn't realize until I started looking at what I was spending to get my sellers versus what I was spending to get my buyers. And that was insight, and I'll shameless plug again, but from Bob Corcoran, we really broke it down that you're right. There was more money to be made there, so we needed to change our focus a little bit. And I can't take all the credit for it. They're just surrounding yourself with the right systems and tools like Firepoint and the right people that can help you see that. And Viral's part of a great group. I mean, we all are part of these great, amazing groups with some great minds. Check your ego and listen to what people have to say, and humble implementation. See what you can do to better your business.
Chris, anything you wanted to add there?
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing was, I mean, there's a difference between a kind of a coach and a consultant. So a consultant's going to come in and tell you what to do. I mean, so if somebody signs up for Firepoint, we literally say, you're going to do A, B, C, D, and E, and that's exactly what you're going to do. And that's great. Gabe's laughing. Because you need to run things a certain way in order to have results and to have numbers. I mean, if you want to sell a house, you go through the certain steps. You don't just wing it. The other side to it is then you have more of the coaching, and the coaching is where somebody steps in and says, hey, what are your goals? And based on your goals, we're going to help you get from A to Z, and it may be a 3-month, a 3-year, or a 30-year process, depending on where we want to be. And so that's where it's tough, because the idea of coaching, whether it's personal or professional mentors or coaches or whatever those are, we all have different goals. And I feel like in real estate, there's this false sense of, it's probably in every professional services, there's this false sense of the goal is X number of transactions, whether or not that really fits my lifestyle. And some people are just psychos for bigger, bigger. Some people are lifestyle, and some people want to be a certain position and want the rest to build around and want to build a legacy with it. So I feel like coaching is what takes, whatever that coaching is, that's what translates, helps you identify your personal goals of how do you want to live and why do you want to live that way and what income do you need and how are you going to generate that, and then takes those systems to help you build that. Whereas if you don't have the system piece, you can't even go down that road, because how can you build something you don't even understand or have a solid base to? It's kind of that, I mean, was it Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is once you have the basis, then you go on to self-fulfillment and different things. The systems are the basis to now you can actually look at something else and say, what do I actually want? Because if you don't have the systems understand it, you can't build anything.
Yeah. I mean, it's so obvious, but it's so, you have to understand what you're doing in order to make the right decisions. Otherwise, you're just making decisions blindly, right? I mean, I don't know. It's pretty amazing. But going through that, and I think it's so interesting, because you can, by seeing, for instance, you talked about, if you put a certain amount of marketing dollars towards a certain lead source in a certain area, that you can compare that return to and the time span to something else. You would never be able to do that. You would never be able to keep those numbers. It would be impossible, literally, to keep those numbers like pretty much in any other system, or like on a Google Doc. That'd be impossible.
Right. Well, and then it takes one slip up or something, you mess up one column, and it's there. I mean, in Firepoint, once you've logged your expenses for the month and you've logged in the closings, they're there. It doesn't matter how you're refiltering on those pages that Chris was showing. The data's there. You're not going to mess it up. I mean, I'm the last person they let touch an Excel sheet when we're filtering and everything, because I'm gonna mess something up. So it's all there. It's designed to be used by those of us that need to do it, and it's laid out in a way that needs to be done so that we can see it, and that's what's great about it.
Do you mind if I go through a couple more pieces that we feel are important? Just about the idea of understanding with a business and how it works.
Mm-hmm. Please.
Okay. So let me pull this up one more second. So a couple of the pieces that we felt, I don't know why this is pulling up. Give me a second. Okay. When I was in real estate, things that we couldn't see that was super frustrating. And this is probably one of the most hated screens in the system. It's super pleasing to look at. It's a bunch of numbers and columns. I mean, very attractive. No. But it was the idea of, hey, it's a red flags page. I want to see my red flags in one place so I understand where do I need to spend my time as the CEO, as the coach of my business and my people. This is it. And this is depending on the size of a company. This is a once a week, a once a day, or once every 15-minute report, depending on how people are managing their business. And it's the idea every service industry has their own KPIs, their key performance indicators, and their red flags. Like, what are the things that should never happen? So for us inside Firepoint, very specifically, like for real estate, and actually for any lead follow-up, actually, is what is your pipeline? if this was all your agents, how big is your pipeline? And my question, as kind of either a consultant or just as trying to shoot holes in things, is why do you allow people to have a pipeline as big as they do? Why do you allow one agent to have a pipeline of 200 people and one a pipeline of 6? And is that based on what they can actually do, or is that something random? Because everybody has a different skill set and can handle a different size pipeline. It shouldn't be, I mean, my argument is it's not a cookie cutter. You can have 20 people. One guy can handle 50 because he's super detail oriented, and somebody else shouldn't. And then also, how many of those are still new? I mean, they're getting in contact with these people. They're doing what they should. How many have they never even viewed? And this is kind of the age-old salesperson. If somebody has, I mean, a bucket of apples and you give them another one, they're going to drop one. I mean, they can't just keep every ball in the air. And so how many have they never even clicked into view? I mean, this should always be 0. I mean, this guy that has 11,000 leads they've never viewed should probably be fired. That's probably me. How many overdue tasks do they have? I mean, when you're having everything in one place, that was a big thing, because all the tasks, the automation, who should be calling who, what's happening, this should always be 0. And then how many leads, I mean, this is the hole in the bucket. How many people are assigned to this person that have no task to follow up in the future? And if there's not a task to follow up in the future, then why is that person assigned to them? I mean, I don't care if it's somebody they closed 6 years ago. They should be following up once every 6 months or once a year, or take it away from that person and give it to somebody who's just going to follow up with all your past clients. And so it's one of those things that a lot of people in professional services.
Wait, we're supposed to follow up with our past clients?
No, that's other people. Don't worry about
okay.
it. No, is the idea of why would you spend? I mean, we advocate for spending less money. I mean, why would you spend another dollar on lead generation unless you're following up with all of your past clients? And why would you spend another dollar on lead generation unless you understand the money you're already spending? And why would you make another phone call unless you can listen to the last phone call you made? I mean, it's one of those things of, would you rather throw 10 more against the wall, or just understand what the last 2 you already threw look like for just a few seconds, and then choose where to throw the next ones? And then just kind of seeing what happened to people over the last 90 days, 30 days, what happened. And this came from the idea, again, of kind of automating the entire process. And so for us, a lot of this was having kind of everything in the same place. And I can stop there, but it was the idea of making phone calls in the same place, that people are sending emails and just doing everything.
But Chris, even on that other page you were just at, like, with the accountability page, I mean, like, even overdue tasks, like something as simple as, and it seems simple, but Agent B has 12 overdue tasks. Like, just to be able to click on that and see what they are, it sounds so simple, but there's a lot of systems that just aren't developed and designed from the eyes of what we need to see. So you can see numbers, but I don't need to see the numbers. I also need to see who those 12 people are and be able to do something with them. And I think that's what's great, is just seeing what the designers and the developers and Chris and how this is all working at Firepoint. It's like, okay, we're going to have this numbers and these data. Now what can we do with it? And that's where it's going to the next level, and that's why it's so great.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fantastic for anyone that's trying to build a business, as far as recruiting and adding team members and being able to identify what they're doing, what they're not doing. I mean, if you don't have some sort of system like this that you can track and have the visibility to see what your employees are actually doing, then you're just taking their word for it that they're like making calls, right? I mean,
so okay. I'm going to take 3 minutes. I'm not going to ask. So probably one of my biggest frustrations, which took years to solve, as far as understanding how to do it, was the age-old. I mean, we had agents, and agents, I mean, they're salespeople, and everybody drops the ball. Everybody drops the ball. So it's more of the systems of what systems do you have to make sure if a ball's dropped, people see it, they can help you with it, they can understand it with it. It's not a bad thing. It's balls drop. How do you make sure they drop as few as possible or as short as possible? But one of the things is we'd have people logging calls. Did that call actually happen? Or that call didn't go very well. Well, can we listen to it? I mean, they logged 17 calls in 3 minutes. Yeah, I'm sure they really made 17 calls in 3 minutes. I mean, how do you actually know? And that was one of the big things with us. And this is a demo account. I'm not showing live client information on this. But being able to, every call that goes through, you can actually just click, and it'll actually call through the system. I mean, it's recorded, everything. I mean, people can turn recording off of their own local laws, all that. And they can just play the call if they actually want to listen to it and just coach with them. And that was the idea of, how do you know, I mean, if you have listings, how do you know that your listings are really being called once a week, and a listing cancels? Go back and listen to the 10 last phone calls, see what was actually said, how were concerns handled, and did they actually call, or were they just emailing 10 times and saying, oh yeah, I called? And so the level of control, I mean, when you're coaching people, I mean, some of these teams get really big and the coaching time goes way down. And so they have meaningful ways to coach and hold people accountable. And the idea of listening to a phone call isn't with a hammer. It was with the idea of, hey, I gave you 10 leads. That could have been $50,000 if you converted all of them. Let's listen to 2 and help you get better, so you could have made $20,000 or $30,000 of that yourself. Let's help get you better at that.
Well, and you know what, Chris, I think too, I mean, using stay here, the example of the big teams and coaching all this, honestly, even just, if you're one of the, on this call and you're one of the guys or gals getting ready to start a team, I remember when I hired my first buyer's agent, the thought of handing off business to them, I mean, it terrified me. And had I known that they would have called through the system, and when I handed them off or I trained a new agent, I could have them make sure they called everything through the system, so I could have listened to every call they made their first 2, 3, 4 days. Man, the peace of mind I would have had handing off my business, just starting to build my team, and the pennies I would spend for this, it would have made that transition huge. So as a smaller team or a new agent building a team, or thinking of hiring your first ISA, are you kidding me? If I could have listened to everything my ISA was saying from the beginning before I got to a larger team, this would have saved me so much money to know, did I have the right person in the right seat of the bus? So whether you're large or small, I think you can utilize this to really, either keep your team large or just to start building that team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, I know you've mentioned before that you can have a whole training system in here too for onboarding a new employee, right? Where you can track essentially, what they've gone through already, right, Chris?
Yeah, and so kind of the point of that was, again, it was the perfect, what would 90% of people need to just focus on clients and not worry about the system things? And it was the automation, the reporting, the accountability, the managing all their leads and all their sources in one place. I mean, the home searching, I mean, all those different things, the lead generation. And so kind of the way we dealt with that at Firepoint was all the automation to run your entire checklist, your entire process. So the idea of, I mean, when you hire a customer service person at Viral, you have a process of, hey, here's what you say, here's how often you follow up. I mean, here's the different things. Why are you smiling? I'm sure you have that process. And same thing with real estate teams, even at Firepoint. I mean, here's how often you follow up with a new client based on how big they are and how much they know about real estate and different topics. And so this is the idea of campaigns is, hey, a campaign for everything. I mean, every checklist you have is in the system, so you can see who's doing what and where they are. So if we said, hey, I want to look at what do we do when a relocation buyer comes in? So relocation lead, or let's look at, hey, what happens when somebody closes or we have a new listing come on? So when somebody closes, we're going to say, okay, 2 days later, it's going to say, hey, call this person and touch base, see how things are going. So the idea, the script's right in there. Just say, hey, how are things going? And then 21 days later, it's going to send an email to the client just saying, hey, John, just want to touch base. Is there anything we do to help with your new home? And then, 21 days later, so the different things, and your scripts are in here. So if you're saying 14 days later you're going to call and you're going to ask for a review, here's the exact script you use. And so instead of having a massive stack of here's what you're going to say on different days, they just have to go in, and when it pops up on their dashboard, they just go in and say, oh, I need to call this person, and I need to, whatever the script is, do the pre-market data entry, or here's what I need to say on the phone call, or call regarding the home inspection. Whatever these things are just preloaded so you can actually see who's doing what, and this is why I should probably be fired. I have a lot of overdue tasks. But it just lets everybody see right away what's happening, what's not happening. And then with that automation comes a lot of a team working together. And that's the other piece, depending on whether it's one person or if it's a 30-person team or really a 2-person. Somebody's hiring their first assistant. Our question to them is, how do you know who's doing what? If you have an assistant that's working with you, how do you know who's doing what paperwork, where are they with it, what's overdue, and if you have 6 clients, all of a sudden what balls are dropping, who ordered that sign, who delivered it? And so the idea of a team working together where you can have 15 people assigned to an individual and go through and assign tasks to each other, even from the campaigns, and basically be able to say, hey, this person's picking up the sign, this person's dropping off the earnest money, this is overdue, this person's supposed to touch base, they're 5 days overdue, and then here's what everybody has to do in the future for all the different people. And so again, super simple or super complex, but who's overdue calling about the showings? And again, that shows in the accountability page, I know Jan is 5 days overdue calling about the showings, I need to deal with that today.
Yeah, that whole team concept here was also something just from real world use has been amazing. Be able to, we separate buyer partners versus our listing partners. and being able to have them on the same lead and communicate has just been a nightmare. So in Firepoint, we have our seller ISA. Let's say they get the call and it's radio or viral or wherever it comes from. Set the appointment. They assign it to a listing partner. They assign it to the buyer's agent. They see everything that's going on at one time. And now what we've taken with Chris's help and insight is now when it closes, is now putting on our past client coordinator on there, and now she's putting in those tasks. And at any point, it's telling her to make that call in 3 days. And we've taken it a step further to where now we've put the buyer's agent will call them on their 1 year or on their 6 month, and it's all pre-done. So as soon as it goes to close, it doesn't really go to closed. It goes from buyer to seller with now a 5-year campaign of follow-up. Why spend all this money at let's keep picking on Zillow and Realtor.com to find more people when we already got them? They used us. But yet as agents, we just want to keep chasing that new shiny lead that we have to convert. And this has made it so easy. We can put that whole team, including our past client person on there, and it's just been incredible that we're all in the loop, we're all in the same lead. At any point you can add or remove extra people, and it's just, oh man, it's been so nice not being told by my lead, my CRM, that I can only have one agent assigned to a lead or just two. No, I want 4. I want my ISA, my 2 agents, I want my past client person, and I'm a control freak as the managing broker, and I want to see what's going on too, so I want to be on there. So it's just designed as we operate. There are a lot of people that convert these leads a lot of times and follow up with them, but yet I've never been able to assign that whole team to that lead.
Yeah, that's again, it just goes back to, this really makes everything visible in your business so that you can make really fact-based decisions for your business, and so it can grow in the right way, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of the biggest thing. Like systems are, I would argue systems, they're not everything. If somebody has a great system, but they never talk to anybody, they're not going to sell. But the right system lets you put 95% of your time selling and making more money, whereas bad systems, now you spend 60% of your time just trying to figure them out, and you just literally cut your income in half. The amount of gas that you were putting into your company, being the entrepreneur, just went down to almost nothing because your systems are, not very good.
Yeah, well, and you're able to identify, potentially if you made a bad hire a lot more quickly, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And that was, so one other piece with that, which kind of went into the tracking side and the auditing is, and again, this might be a little bit off track, but the idea of the people that we have on the bus is, are we looking at it from the standpoint of, I need a red marker and I need to give everybody a grade on what they're doing, I'm trying to find all the stuff that's bad? Or is it, hey, I just want as many coaching opportunities brought to my attention so that I can coach them, make them as good as they can be? And most people, that at least I know in real estate, they're not spending an hour or 20 minutes. What's the idea? You shouldn't manage more than 5 or 6 or 10 people, because if you spend an hour with each one of them, coaching them to make them as good as they can be and let them live up to what you do really well, you don't have much time for anything else, all the stuff going on. And a lot of people don't spend that time coaching, and even if they did, it's the question of, well, what do I coach them on? I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what calls they're making. I don't know what's going on with them. I can just say you're not closing enough, but what are the real issues with it? And so the idea of being able to have those coaching opportunities where when you meet with somebody, you just pull up their last 10 calls, you listen to 3, you see how they're doing, you see what their activity is, and then you turn it over to them and you're done. It's really, but again, that's handed to you, so you don't have to figure out, what do I talk to this person about? It's a quick process to work through.
So how much would you both say that you can attribute to implementing the system and it directly allowing your business to flourish, to where you guys were both worked for 2 of the top real estate teams in the entire country? If not in the top 10 or whatever the numbers would be, right?
Gabe, what do you think?
For me, honestly, what it's been is, and I don't know if I can say exact numbers, what it's changed so far, because what it's done is it's given me such an insight into things that we were doing wrong to reshift and redirect, that I don't know if we're starting to see the immediate results yet. Like, we're already seeing more transparency as far as processing the leads and working the leads from the ISAs. So in our main team here in Boise, well, actually our ISAs now cover for all 3 of our teams, but being able to assign them out, stay on the lead, and see what's going on has really helped. I feel like we're dropping less balls. As far as the way, I don't know, do you want to talk about the lead distribution and the rip away? I don't know if
So yeah, and I was just pulling that up because I think that's something as far as people being more creative about their business that we could talk about next, just giving them
Right.
a chance to be creative with it.
So when we don't have our ISAs getting leads, something that's amazing with Firepoint, and probably something that I'm helping people get set up as I'm getting them up and running with Firepoint, is when leads come in. Here's something that I've learned over the years. Stop ripping, and I don't have a lot of hair left. Stop ripping your hair out on things that you can't change. You just have to find better solutions to manage it. And agents aren't always going to call their leads within 5 minutes when they register. Let's just all face it. It's not going to happen. And honestly, agents can't be calling leads in 5 minutes if they're out showing property, writing, and negotiating contracts. So when you get these leads going, and we have leads coming in, and you got agents out there, you have to have a way to automate. If a lead comes in and it hasn't been called in 2 minutes or 3 minutes, that somebody else does it. And not everybody has an ISA to do that. So what's awesome about Firepoint is when a lead comes in, and I don't know if Chris can show you this, but when a lead comes in, so let's say it's a Zillow, for example. I know that they're raising their hand, asking a question, saying, I have a question about this. And typically we have good contact information. I want to know that if the agent gets assigned that after 2 minutes, they haven't claimed that lead and logged it, I want you to take the lead away and give it to the next person. I don't want to have to hire somebody manually to do that. I just need the system to do it. So we can go into our lead distribution and say, anytime this lead or these lead sources come in, I want you to give them to these agents in round robin or a weighted round robin, it doesn't matter. But I want to tell it that if it doesn't get claimed, somebody doesn't log in and see the lead and claim it, I need you to give it to the next person because that lead is really expensive. I need it to keep going through. So Firepoint does that for you, so you don't have to have somebody manually do that. And that's just one of those small things that's priceless. As far as, I mean, you save one lead that you normally would have lost, you just paid for Firepoint for probably half the year or the whole year.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. That was kind of like one of the things about stepping back, and it's interesting when you talk to somebody that has been using a system like Firepoint for a year, and then they're talking to somebody that doesn't. It's hard to kind of for them to talk about the same thing because they're talking two different languages. And the idea is we try and get people to understand, hey, forget what systems you're using, because I would argue everybody has built their business around their systems, whether they're good, they're bad, you're using 6, you're using 50. You built your business around your system versus, and the problem with that is the system is your problem. If you build your business around your system versus you stepping back and saying, what is my perfect business? What would I want to have happen? And then the system just does that, then you've got an issue. The system is holding you back because the idea is you're going to do your best when you build the business you believe in. Because if you're doing something you don't believe in, you're going to second guess it. You're going to kind of cut corners. You're not going to go full bore. Whereas if you built, the business you believed in that much and your system just backed you up in it, you're going to go forward with everything you've got and not be frustrated that you can't really do things the way you want to. And so is the idea, I'm going to switch back over to this. So is the idea of being creative and being able to say things like, hey, you know what? Johnny is really good at open houses, and he's really good when people are just really friendly. So he's good at Zillow, he's good at open houses, he's good at open conversations, but he is horrible at converting a sign call, which might be a little more standoffish, or converting a FSBO or an expired lead. And so what we're going to do is we're going to say, you know what? Zillow and and open houses and Realtor.com, because we've taken leads from any source. So if somebody has 50 lead sources, they come in automatically into Firepoint. So we're going to say this is Johnny's leads, and again, it could be simple or really complex. And we're going to say he only works Monday, Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday. He gets Thursdays off, so he works 6 days a week. And we only let him handle leads that are under $1 million. If anything over $1 million comes in, that's going to go straight to me because I'm selfish, and so I'm just giving him under $1 million. And I've got 5 offices. Again, it doesn't. You have to. Most of the stuff doesn't get used most of the time. But if they have 5 offices, hey, he's only going to work leads that come in Highlands Ranch and Castle Rock. But the other piece with this, no matter what all this is set as, is you know what? We're going to give this to Johnny, or we're going to say between these 3 people. Again, round robin, weighted round robin. Does it start a campaign right away? We need to tell Johnny exactly when to call, what emails are going to go out, and it's different for Zillow than it is for Realtor.com. The emails can be different. So again, whatever. But then this piece is on these days, I went 3 minutes, and every 3 minutes, if they don't accept that lead and start working it, it's going to go to the next person. And so again, it's just the idea of certain lead sources. If Zillow's more expensive than an open house lead, then you probably want to weight that higher and make sure the right people are working it. And I feel like a lot of business owners have this idea of fairness. And fairness is not fair, I'm going to give you everything. Fairness is I'm going to give you equal opportunity, and then you're going to make more or get more based on how hungry you are and how good you are. And so I'm going to give you the equal chance at these, but I'm not going to give you an equal number of leads. I'm not going to give you the equal sources. We're going to give you what works best for the business so everybody's successful. And then there are some compliance things here as well. I mean, I have 2 lenders that co-market on this, so to keep it RESPA compliant, this person co-markets. This person co-markets twice as much. They're gonna get twice as many of the leads, and I've got telemarketers that work this. So again, it can get very complex, but the idea is being able to say, I mean, do you want 1 rule or 20? Is it all leads go to 1 person, or is it different people work on different days and different lead sources are being paid for? It's just, again, not letting the system tell you what you need to do. You can tell the system how you run your business.
Yeah, that's impressive to say the least. Well, I mean, we're at an hour right now, which is awesome.
That was the introduction, though, right?
Yeah. So we're gonna be on, viewers, for another 3 hours. We could, though. I mean, you can go on and on with that. I mean, the system's unbelievable, guys, and you both. I know you put in a lot of hard work in making sure that you had what you just talked about, Chris, where you can work the system the way you want to run your business. For someone that's watching or viewing this on replay at some point, where do they go to learn more and do a demo with you?
Yeah, best place is just to go to our website. It's firepoint.net. So yeah, pretty easy to spell, just firepoint.net. I mean, pricing's there, everything about the system's there. You can request a demo online. I mean, there's videos that are online as well. Again, it's a very soft sell. We're not trying to obviously push anything. It's if it's the right decision for somebody to make. I mean, we're growing like crazy, which means we're doing the right thing. Absolutely, yes.
Cool. And Gabe, if someone wanted to talk to you, more about just your perspective as well with Firepoint, or different things that you're involved, how would they get in touch with you?
They can call or email me. So email is I'll just give you my Firepoint one, which is gabe@firepoint.net. So GABE. Or they can call me too. I know a lot of people just want to talk through their business and stuff, which is what I'm loving about what we're doing here. Is that's I think my main role is help them talk through how can they implement it, because I think Chris hit it on the head. It's don't let your software or your systems define your business. It's have your business and then make sure you have the tools to do it. And that's my favorite thing is what are the clients saying they need and how do we get it to them. So yeah, just reach out to me at my email. Give me the best way to reach you, and I'll give you a call. We can set up a time, and I'd love to sit down and just tell you about what we did, how we've implemented, and how I can help.
Excellent. Well, I just want to thank you both, Chris, Gabe, for being here and spending an hour of your time. I know how busy you guys are, so thank you very much. And we'll be back next month on another Road to Results Hangout. And I appreciate everybody watching, and thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks, Scott.
All right.